Hey guys, it's me Rebecca. So this will be the start of another weekly vlog, and so far today I've just done some cleaning and whatnot. I did some yard work and just deal with leftover leaves and yeah. And I did do some reading. If you saw my last vlog, you would have seen that I started What the River Knows by Isabel Abanez. I have since decided to DNF this on page 122, so a good chunk of the way through the post and just to indicate where I left off. And why this morning? Like I usually read about a good half hour before I make a breakfast, and I also read while I'm waiting for my breakfast to cook and whatnot. And while that I did do some reading on my word. I'm kind of out of it. I took an afternoon nap, so I'm like, but I felt like I was skim reading it, like just to read it, like, and while I was reading it, I was like, I just don't care. So yeah, I didn't have to. But what I went was, and as for learning how important the wing that she had was to finding Cleopatra's tomb, how due to no one knowing the known temple that Cleopatra could be buried in, they're looking for unknown temples, and there is magic in that wing that will, if it attaches itself to the user, to the person wearing that wing, it can lead them to finding the tomb. And we also see how Naz is interested in learning more about Mr. Hayes, her uncle's employee, and how he is interested in her. Like, we see how he just gives her this kiss on the cheek and that's it. And how she refuses to stand down and do what she is told. Like, she's quite persistent, she's quite determined in getting the answers and not willingly getting on this boat back to Buenos Aires. And while she is looking for her parents' things, she finds a letter her mother wrote but never sent, saying she believes that her uncle could be doing some illegal business, and that's his uncle who was her mother's brother. And Inez is now more determined to stay in Egypt and follow her uncle and Mr. Hayes to this extraction site that they are planning to go to that night. Like, they are getting on a boat on an river, staying on board for the night to make sure everything's prepared properly, and then going to this location the next morning. And we see how she does some preparation to be on the campsite, and she sneaks away from her chaperone her uncle hired to accompany her back to Buenos Aires, and that's how I really read. And I don't know, I just decided to day up. Like, it was just, I just didn't care. I was skim reading it, so yeah, that's unfortunate. And after I got back inside from doing the yard work, I did start The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. And this is about following 4 American Indian men after a disturbing event from their youth puts them in a desperate struggle for their lives. Tracked by an entity bent on retribution, these childhood friends are helpless as the culture and traditions they left behind catch up to them in a violent, vengeful way. Yeah, I was a bit lost in the beginning of this book, I should say, just because I wasn't sure if each chapter was like gonna get different narratives or what. I was like a bit confused on what was going on. I should say that I'm only 20 pages in, and from what I read of this one is that we start this novel by meeting Ricky, and we know his story quite quickly, and we know how his story will end with a headline reading: an Indian man killed in dispute outside of bar. We learn quite quickly his history, how his brother died on his couch, and then he just packed up and left the reservation where he lived, not going to his brother's funeral and taking his family's guns. Like, we see how he has some regrets about that, like wishing he stayed for the funeral, wondering how he went, and as well reflecting on the people he left behind and the people who left him, because we see how he reflects like on the next person we meet, a man named Lewis, who left the reservation prior to him to be with a woman named Heta, I believe her name is. Yes. And him thinking, oh, they probably separated, like Lewis is probably like now living on his own and whatnot. And Ricky, he was heading to Minneapolis with his family's guns, like he like took all of their rifles and whatnot, and he was gonna sell them for money. When he was able to get a job on a oil crew, they made him chief due to him being the only Indian, and we see the circumstances of leading up to his death, how he went to a bar and was looking at a white waitress in a certain way, and while he went to relieve himself outside because the line to the bathroom was too long, some white men followed him, not liking the way he was looking at this white waitress, and he runs from them and runs into an elk, which causes damage to trucks, and he is blamed for it. So, and I guess we then jump too many years later with when we meet his old friend Lewis, who left the reservation before him, and he is still living with Peta, who is now his wife. And I just found it funny that Lewis like reflects on his life in a way like he's still alive. Like he didn't die or go anything anyway, go down in ways that would be stereotypical for his culture and whatnot. And as well, he is still living in the past. Like he used to be this basketball player when it seems like in his late teens, early 20s, because he says like half a lifetime ago, and he's only 36. So yeah, but when we meet him, we see that he is deciding to fix a ceiling light lamp at the rental home where he and his wife are staying at. While his wife is out grocery shopping, he wanted to surprise her, and when he's on a ladder, he sees this, I think it was like an elk that he shot and killed and made into a log, and apparently opened an iron ring at him, causing him to get startled and fall off the ladder, and his wife is able to prevent his death by like pushing him so he doesn't, so he falls onto the log, it seems like, and not falls to his death. So yeah, I mean, so far I would say I'm intrigued, and yeah, we will see what happens. Hopefully this one sticks with me. Hopefully, because yeah, I never enjoy DNFing. I rarely do. It's just, for me, I only DNF when nothing in the stories or in the book is like captivating me, or not captivating, but holding my interest. Like I can read a book where I'm like, I just don't care about a certain aspect, but I'm like intrigued about an element about it, and with what everyone knows, I just didn't care. Like yeah, like the descriptions of Cairo, but considering we're not gonna be in Cairo much longer, then. But yeah, and yeah, I think that's all for now. So I'll see. It's the next day, and as you saw, I did go out today. I did have to run an errand, and while I was driving home, I did go to a couple parks that were on my way home. And yeah, it was just very beautiful. I took a few clips and really enjoyed the weather. It was just absolutely beautiful, very breezy, just cool, and I don't know, just quiet. Like I like those days where there's not a lot of people around, and just human nature, I guess. Which I don't know if that's pretentious, but I don't know. I'm not someone who like, listens to music or anything while I'm walking. I guess take in the sound of nature and yeah. And I have also done some cleaning and whatnot, and I did do some reading of Tony Good Indians, and I'm on page 96, and I'm definitely intrigued about this. It seems like Lewis is actually the character we're following, and it has been revealed. It's been 10 years since Wiki died, and I am intrigued on like why we got Wiki's death in the prologue. I mean, it also seems like he saw that elk that Lewis will see later on, and like things have started going a bit weird for Lewis. Like when he takes his coworkers, his friends to his house to show them how high his dog jumps. Like he usually keeps his dog tied up in the backyard with food, water, and undershade for the dog's protection. And somehow the dog like linked on its leash and got on a fence. The way it was described was that the dog tried to jump in and caught himself stuck on a fence, but it seems like he accidentally strangled himself with his leash. So the dog does survive, but and Lewis, he for some reason can't help think of the elk. It seems like after the hunt for the lands were rumored to be haunted, and he starts to think he's being haunted by the soul of the elk. We see that he kept some of her coat in a freezer, and that he's been carrying on for years. Like, he and his wife, they went their house, and then he's like, it's been with us for 6 houses, something. And it's like, it seems like the lease for each house is a year, and there's no chance to renew it, so it's at least 6 years. And we learn that he hasn't told Peta, his wife, the full truth to protect her. Like, he's like, oh, she's a vegetarian for ethical reasons, and then it's like, she's white, so she won't understand, like, due to them being from a different culture. He does tell the story to Shani, his co-worker, who is also Indian. He tells her how he and his friends wanted to do something special for the Thanksgiving dinner, so they went hunting on lands they weren't allowed to be on, as it seems like these lands were restricted or reserved for the elders of the reservation. And when we see what happens during the hunt, how his friend's truck keeps getting stuck and whatnot, and how things could have gone differently, like if the elk who were unaware of them was made aware. Like, it seems like the other animals were aware of them, but not the elk. And Lewis shoots one elk who refuses to die. Like, he shoots her in the spine. She's still trying to move, and like, he keeps shooting at her, and she keeps refusing to die. She keeps moving, and it's no matter how many times he shoots her, she just refuses to die. And he doesn't finish the story to Shani, and in a way he says he feels guilty for telling this story to Shani. Like, to him it's worse than being caught sleeping with her by his wife. Like, this story to him is so intimate and personal, and we see, and apparently, spoiler alert, the dog sadly dies. Something somehow opens the garage door, sneaks in, and stomps on the dog, killing it. And Peta's out there mourning it, and he tells Peta the rest of the story of him cutting up the elk, and realized that the reason she was refusing to die was so she could protect her baby. She was pregnant, and he did find a bit weird due to the fact she was so young, and like so young, like to be pregnant, and as well, this was November, and I guess it wasn't common or normal for elks to be so early in their pregnancy during that time. And he does think he's being haunted by the elk, as he forgot about her and broke his promise that none of her would go to waste. Like, he and his friends, they cut up this elk and spread her on the others and to the others in the tribe with this damp whip that Ricky's little sister had that was like Wakun, and I guess they reassured the elders like, oh, it is elk, and I guess those elders just didn't tell their family members or something, or the freezer where the elk was forgotten about or whatnot, and those elders probably died, and so new owners who wanted new stuff, and they just threw that freezer with the elk away, and animals got to it. So there's that, and so this is like, when I'm like, is he losing his mind? Like, he thinks his wife is the elk. With the fact, like, she showed up like the summer after the whole thing happened, and elks are herbivores, meaning they don't need to meet. And guess who else doesn't need to meet? PETA. Yeah, I don't know. He just can't stop seeing the elk, whether it's like in true elk form or a human body with an elk head or PETA. Like, he just cannot stop seeing her. Like, if I'm in a shadow with the ceiling lamp, or he lives by train track, so whenever a train passes he just can't help but see it. Like, I'm like, what is going on? Like, it is affecting his life. Like, he's not working or anything, and he does, I think he did mention he was on some sort of medicine, so I'm just like, what's this? Is he actually being haunted, or is he just being paranoid? Like, is it like some sort of tradition that's causing this paranoia? I mean, that probably sounds offensive, but I'm just like, what is going on? But yeah, I'm definitely intrigued, and I'm intrigued to see, like, if this will affect his other friends, or if it will only affect him because he is the one who killed that elk, but his friends were also part of the tribe. And we do see, like, in Mickey's chapters through that the elk might have haunted him as it did chase him and haunt him, so yeah, but why now, if that's the case? Like, why is that elk targeting Lewis now when it's been a decade? Like, is it because it's been 10 years since what happened, or... But yeah, the way it was framed, there's this, like, for some reason this hunt did affect them all. I mean, it did affect them in the sense they did get caught hunting on their lands, and they were forbidden to hunt. So yeah, there's that. But I think so far I'm just intrigued, and I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I've just done some cleaning and whatnot, and I did just go for a bit of a walk. I just walked around my neighborhood, so nowhere interesting, and yeah, that's another day. And I did do some reading of The Only Good Indians, and I'm on page 184. And I would say I'm definitely intrigued about what's gonna happen next. We see how Lewis, he decides, his wife, she isn't that elk woman. No, it's his co-worker, Shani. I'm just like, Lewis, like, I don't know, like, he also is aware, like, he doesn't, that he's losing it. He's not sure why he's losing his mind, but he is, and it's like, his evidence against her is that she's returning his books, and, like, putting them in random places, and not knowing the references from that book series, and as well she claimed it would take her, like, an hour to get to his, like, before work. And it's also due to her being Indian, apparently. Like, he tries to test her to see if she is, and when she fails, and his test is that he'll get onto the ladder the way he did. He first saw the South woman, and look at Ginny through the ceiling fan of the like a ceiling fan light combo thing he has that doesn't work properly, and when she refuses to step in that spot where he saw her, that's why he deemed her a foul. And they go out to his garage, and he kills her. Like, I'm not entirely sure if it was accidental or if it just happened. And that's when he realizes all of the evidence against her was circumstantial. Like, he calls the post office and asks him as a coworker like her address, and then learns that she did live on the other side of town from him, and she would have had to leave an hour early before work to see him because it did take an hour for her to get to his. And as well, he gave her some references from the book series he lent her, and he was like, she probably read the first couple chapters before deeming it like not for her and returned the rest of the series. Like, that makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is like the first two books would show up in one place, the third book in another, and it's like someone was probably just messing with him. And he still had a ladder up from the test, and his wife gets on the ladder to see his work because she saw that now that the ceiling lamp, which was acting funny, worked properly now. And Pata is someone who, she was in gymnastics. She should have fallen carefully and whatnot, but she fell and hit her head quite hard on like some sort of concrete floor that they had in front of their fireplace, and she died. And he sees something move in her stomach, and he cuts her open, finding an elk in her, and he deems it his child. And because he killed two people, both, I guess, I don't know. He does go on one. He goes back to the reservation with this elk child, but because there is no manhunt for him to do these crimes, some hunters decide to join the manhunt, and they shoot and kill him. And his truck's abandoned, and the elk escapes, and we see how the elk transforms into a human being, and she hitches it. Like, she initially looks like a child between the ages of 12 and 14. A family that picks her up from being a hitchhiker says that she's 14 years old now. But she is able to get to the school where Gabe, another man on the hunt's daughter attends, and she steals the daughter Danora's, I don't know how to pronounce it, basketball clothes and basketball uniform, and we see how she ages quickly. Like, she gets older, she gets bigger. Like, at one point, the basketball clothes are quite tight on her, and she can feel that. And it seems like she is hellbent on revenge, and it's like she is that elk baby whose mother was killed 10 years earlier, but she was reborn, and now she's hellbent on revenge, which I'm going to think about. And yeah, I've lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. But really need to see and learn more about Gabe and Cassidy, the other two men. How Gabe, he doesn't really have much of a relationship with his daughter due to not having the best relationship with her mother. How he has had a drinking problem in the past, and it seems like he does care and love his daughter. And we see his daughter, she is an excellent basketball player. Like, she is like her older stepsister and gonna go to university. And he also believes that the coach tries to tame his daughter and the way she plays. And we see with Cassidy how he seems to want this like steam for men, and he lives in an old trailer and keeps or truck and keeps his money in a safe, which is this like old exhaust thing that's like under the truck that he thinks no one will look. And we just see that and see how Gabe kind of becomes a bit paranoid with seeing this woman in his daughter's like basketball uniform, and really about the elk and how they're mourning the loss of Lewis and Mickey. Like with Lewis, they just don't understand what happened with him. And I do have to say, while Dinara is practicing, she mentions some of the comments those from the other team, meaning the fans of the other team, have made towards her team. And when the other team lose a match, and how they've said that the only good Indian is a dead one, which, I don't know, considering the title, I think will come into play. Like, I don't know, I'm just definitely intrigued on seeing like how this whole elk business will affect Gabe and Cassidy, if this elk child will rest once it's gotten its revenge, or if it will just continue terrorizing everyone. Like, I guess intrigued. And I don't know. But yeah, that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I've just done some work and whatnot, and I also went outside to do some yard work, taking advantage of this weather due to the fact they did promise rain today, and the sun is out, so we'll see. But I did do some reading, and I did finish The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Johnson. I liked it, and I did give it 4 stars. There were aspects of the ending I felt were just drawn out, and just aspects I just didn't really care for. And yeah, and we do learn, like where we left off, that the same, it's like a moment to pray, to talk to the dead, to remember them. Like, we see how Cassidy and Gabe, they use it as a moment to remember Lewis and Mickey, and how Nathan, who is the son of a police officer who I guess was brought to the scene to be set straight after his friend passed away, like how he's remembering how his friend and Nango, I guess, the feelings that he felt like then back his friend is not singing properly. And we see how the elk, she is using this as a moment to enact her revenge. She kills the dogs to prevent them from alerting the men, and she also takes care of Victor, who is adding to this team by adding hawks when alerted, and he's standing outside while all of the others are inside. She also transforms into Cassidy's girlfriend to make him think Shani was her cousin and she is going to her family. He gives her money, and she sets Gabe up in the sense like she's under a truck and makes it look like Gabe crushed her by accident. That he also took Cassidy's money, and which was kept in this black furnace, and yeah, she sets Cassidy against Gabe, and she is watching and saying and narrating like, if only they turned around and looked in a certain direction, almost like a reverse of the narration we got during that initial hunt. Like, now she is the hunter and they are the ones being hunted, and I did like that aspect. And Cassidy, in his grief, he points a rifle at Gabe and shoots. It hits Gabe in the air and goes through. But the elk, she is telling her, like, I guess disguised, like she's wearing that basketball uniform, and her hair is down, covering her face, and Gabe thinks it is his daughter, and thinking that his daughter was for some reason on a trailer. I'm so sorry if you can hear them. My dad's watching something in the kitchen, and it's quite loud. I'm sorry. But yeah, Gabe, in his grief, he kills Cassidy by hitting him repeatedly with this furnace, and Elk makes Gabe kill himself by threatening to go after his daughter, his calf. He does so after making the Elk promise that she'll stay away from Denara, which she does, but after his death, she still goes after her. He killed her calf, she'll kill his. An eye for an eye, like I did like that aspect. Now, the thing that felt a bit drawn out is Denara, she does go to the trailer looking for him. Now gets there in a shiny disguise, and there is this game of basketball which felt drawn out, and I just didn't care for this because I don't really care about reading about a basketball game. And there is a chase which did feel a bit drawn out and was quite suspenseful. And which ends, I like where it ends, is that it ends at the site of the original hunt where it occurred, and we see how the elk is reunited with her calf, and we see the end of the hunt. The end of the novel was like, it's the end of one story but the beginning of another, so, overall I liked it. I like seeing how when Gabe thought his daughter was killed, how it made him feel, like how it affected him, how the elk played with their emotions, like that was really interesting to me. So yeah, so overall it was interesting, and I gave it 4 stars. Now the next novel I will be starting, and I'm just going to tell you the synopsis, I don't think I'll be doing any more reading today. It's The Sirens by Emily Alford. Now tell me why. This book is 330 pages, and physically it is quite heavy. I'm about to take the dust jacket off, so. But this is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. You can tell I tried to take off the sticker horribly. But I think what the exclusive part is this. And I think you can see my bookmark on page 1, but yeah. And this is about, in 2019, Lucy awakens in the middle of the night with her hands on her ex-lover's throat. Horrified, she flees to her older sister's house on the Australian coast, hoping Jess can explain the vivid dreams that precede the attack. But she is nowhere to be found. Desperate for answers, Lucy finds and begins to read her sister's adolescent diary. In 1999, Jess is a lonely 16-year-old in a rural town in the middle of the continent. Diagnosed with a rare allergy to water, she has always felt different until her young, charming art teacher takes an interest in her drawings, seeing power and maturity in them and in her that no one else has. In 1800, twin sisters Mary and Eliza are torn from their home in Ireland and forced into a convict ship bound for Australia. Since their mothers drowned when they were girls, they fear the ocean, but as the boat bears them further and further from all they know, they feel the water calling to them. As Lucy awaits Jess's return, strange rumors surrounding her sister's small town start to emerge. Numerous men have disappeared at sea. A tiny baby was found hidden in a cave. The sailors tell of hearing women's voices on the waves, so yeah, I'm very much intrigued, and yes, and yeah, I think that's all for now, so I'll see you. So, it's the next day, and I just got back from running some errands. I had to take one of my parents to an appointment, and before we went to the appointment, we did quickly go to Barnes & Noble's. I didn't film anything just because there was some mold work, so we were in a bit of a rush, so yeah, and I did get 2 books. First was A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the sequel to The Tainted Cup, which I read earlier this month and really enjoyed, so I wanted to grab the sequel. And I also grabbed Saltwater by Katie Hayes. I believe, I want to say this is called The Vipers in the UK, but she wrote The Cloisters, which I read, I think, about 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed it. And this one it takes place in 1992, and Sarah Lingate is found dead below the cliffs of Capari, leaving behind her 3-year-old daughter, Helen. Despite suspicions that the Almani Lingates are involved, Sarah's death is ruled an accident, and every year the family returns to prove that's true. But on the 30th anniversary of her death, the Lingates arrive at the villa to find a surprise waiting for them: the necklace Sarah was wearing the night she died. Haunted by the specter of that night, the Lingates find their legendary unity pushed to a breaking point, enlisting the help of family assistant Helen plots her escape from her paranoid, insulate family. But when Lorena disappears and an investigation into Sarah's death is reopened, Helen has to confront the fact that everyone who was on Capri 30 years ago remains a suspect. Her controlling father Richard, her wearily lucid aunt Naomi, her distant uncle Marcus, and her circle of friends, visitors, and staff, even Lorena, her closest ally, must not be who she seems. May not be who she seems. As long hidden secrets about that night boil to the surface, one thing becomes clear: not everyone will leave the island alive. So yeah, I'm very curious about that. And I did do some reading of the sirens, and I'm now on page 78, and I do have to say I am intrigued. I do have to say it is, I guess, similar to the author's previous novel, Wayward, in a sense. Like, it's like women who've been hurt by men and whatnot. Like, that is a thing. And yeah, and we first meet Lucy when she wakes up and is strangling her ex-lover Ben. They live in the same like dorm, but in separate rooms, and she sleptwalk apparently from her dorm room to his. And we learn that Lucy and Ben, they did have a thing during the summer holidays, and she did send him a quite risky picture, and he shared it with his friends, which was an asshole move of him. And his friends put it on social media, so yeah, there's that. And we see how she kind of grapples with that, how she tries to go to the student welfare office to report it, and it's like she's discouraged from reporting it. Like, the resource officer's actually like, I have a son, and it's like, I swear I was about to go down the path of, oh, he's gonna be such a bright young man, you're gonna ruin his future, that bullshit. As well as the fact Ben does have a lawyer father, and if he gets involved, it could hurt Lucy's not journey, but her gain in an employer and in a career. Like, she is a journalist student, and she wants to go into journalism because she thinks telling the truth could actually help people, but wielding the power of the truth, it could actually hurt people and hurt her, so she has to grapple with that. And we see how she goes to her sister's house really to get advice, because her sister does have a history of sleepwalking as well, and we see the relationship really between the two, how they used to be close, and it seems like there's quite a large age gap with Jess, Lucy's sister, being probably in her late teens when Lucy was like 7 or 8. And we see how they were close until, for some reason, Jess started distancing herself from Lucy, which hurt her, and we see how Lucy's trying to contact her sister to let her know she's on her way, but Jess isn't answering. And we also learn that Jess had a complicated relationship with their parents, where they didn't seem to approve of the art she was making, the ethnics and the kind of art. I think it does seem there's some issues there. And you see how we meet the sisters from Ireland through Lucy's dreams, which I kind of like, because it's like, why is Lucy dreaming of these random sisters from like the 1800s in a country she's never been to? Like, she actually said she doesn't know the Irish language at all. And we see how they are being exiled for assaulting someone, how one sister, Eliza, is blind, and her sister, she explains their surroundings to her, which I do like. And there is a podcast element which I do enjoy, of like loose, and that also gives information about the area that her just lives in this area called Canva Bay. There's been a shipwreck in the 1800s, then a serial killer that was active between the 1960s and the 90s, and a baby that was found abandoned in the 80s. So a lot has happened. And when when Lucy gets to Jess's house, she sees her sister's not there, that the door's unlocked, that her phone was left behind, and she also sees that Jazz was so consumed by her work that it was consuming. I think that's all she ever thought, never did, and that she was also painting a portrait or picture of the sisters in the shipwreck. Well, especially the ship, because of the mermaid fun that had to it. It's intriguing, and Lucy's paranoid, wondering where Jess is, and is worried about her sister. Yeah, and we also see more of Mary and Eliza, and we learn how their father didn't want them near this stream for some reason, how it would affect their skin if they touched the water, and how their mother died by drowning. And I swear, the way they described it just seemed like Mary is, I guess, our narrator in their chapters, and the way she describes their mother's death, it's like she just upright and left them, abandoned them, that in a way she was still alive. It wasn't until we were told that she drowned that then I got, I guess, confirmation that she died. I just thought she abandoned them, and in a way she did. Yeah, and I also because they're in complete darkness, Mary cannot see anything, and Eliza teaches her how to differentiate between the different voices of the different women they're with, and how to tell an emotion a woman is feeling just by how she speaks, which I do and we hear all of their stories, and that is something I do find interesting. It's the importance of stories and being able to tell your story when you're not able to. And yeah, and also what I found interesting is that Lucy has something called aquagenetic ortichala, which makes water a threat to her. And I just think that it's interesting. But so far, I'm just intrigued about where this baby came from and how it's related to everything, and really how this will all come together, really, if it's just through these dreams these Jess and Lucy were having. I do think it's interesting that's a pair of scissors alongside a pair of sisters, and I'm just wondering where is Jess, so yeah. But yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I just got back from running some errands. I just did my grocery shopping and whatnot, and before I left, I did do some reading of the Sirens. Now I'm on page 140, and I'm definitely liking this. I'm just having a lot of fun with it. Something I forgot to mention when I updated it yesterday is that Mary does feel a lot of resentment towards her mom for leaving. It's almost like the mom chose to leave instead of it being an accident. And as well with what happened on Canva Bay, people heard singing voices or women voices, and then something happened, and Lucy, at one point does hear something. Speaking of, she does find Jess's adolescent diary, and we do that started a year before Lucy was born, giving me a better idea of the age difference. It seems like Jess was entering her teenage years, maybe in her early teens, when Lucy was born. We learned that Jess's teacher offers to give her extra lessons after school to teach her techniques to improve her art, and Lucy is wary of this with her own experience with what happened to Ben as well. I'm kind of worried because it kind of was like the classic setup of this teacher who we learn is in his early 20s, kind of taking advantage of this very young child, really. Like, Jess isn't extremely young, like, she's 14 maybe, but still she is young. Like, and I worry that he will hurt her or try and take her art in some way. I don't know. And where was my train of thought? And Lucy also learns that Jess had the same thing with water as she does, where water will react to their skin and cause gaps. And for some reason, like, neither of Lucy's parents or Jess herself thought to mention this to Lucy, which is a bit odd. Like, why wouldn't you? And like, we see at one point Jess also questions her parental. Like, she questions if her father's actually her father, because she doesn't think she looks like either of her parents, and that's kind of forgotten about, I guess. And Lucy also learns that Jess also dreamed of marrying Eliza, and she also slept rock. There was a scene that I thought was interesting, and it felt like almost a couple things really that felt like they were in parallel to one another. What Jess is describing in her diary of walking to a cliff near her childhood home, and like when she's almost on the edge of the cliff, that's when she wakes up. And Lucy, she falls asleep, wakes up when she's when she's really close to this cliff near Jesse's house, and both of them think like, what would have happened if they hadn't woken up? What would have happened to them? And that's something I just found really interesting. And Lucy also reads how Jess was infatuated with her art teacher, how she was looking forward to their once-a-week meetings, and then after that day, like, the rest of the week would feel like a slog, and then they would repeat. And Lucy, she does learn that she has been suspended due to what has happened, and realizes she doesn't care if she's expelled after the investigation. She doesn't need a university to become a journalist, and realizes that being on campus and surrounded by those people made her feel claustrophobic, and that she thrived when she was writing. And she also realized that her only friend isn't really much of a friend in the advice she gives when she tells Lucy that Ben wasn't even the one who posted that picture on social media, and then maybe the two can work things out. Like, he still sent it to his friends. Like, that's still an asshole move. Like, I'm sorry, but no. And where was it? Yes, and I do like how that kind of makes Jess. Why do I keep mixing up their names? I'm sorry. Lucy, like, is now determined to tell the truth. Like, even if it makes people uncomfortable, even if it unravels the story they have told themselves, even if it makes them face the truth they don't want to face. Like, we have the student welfare officer who told Lucy not to report what happened. She's like, oh, I have a son, and it's like the student welfare officer cannot accept the fact that men are capable of this, that probably her own son could be capable of doing such things, and it just makes Lucy more determined, and that is something that I do like. Lucy standing for her beliefs and not being pushed aside. Not she's being pushed aside, but due to, like, Ben does have, like, he is a man, like, he has that privilege, and also he has the privilege of being wealthy, of having a lawyer for his father. Like, there are privileges he does have. And we see how Lucy now is determined to find the whole truth, and she does investigate the 8 men that went missing, and realized that two of them were suspected of committing crimes against women and children, with one having pictures of evidence of children sexual abuse, and the other, it was really that information that Lucy found on him was like a newspaper having to issuing an apology to him because apparently third accounts or certain people came forward and said that he pushed his girlfriend off the balcony, slandered his character, and apparently these were sources that were trying to do so. That the girlfriend was probably mentally unstable and killed herself. Ooh. Yeah, so there's that, and yeah, I'm just curious on how this will continue on. And we also see that Lucy again confirmation that Mary and Eliza, the girls she's dreaming of, they're real people. Like she finds reports of the ship drowning and being sunk, and finds a list of women who were found. And she knows what happened to the men, that they were all properly buried, but what happened to the women? That is the question. So yeah, so far I'm just very much intrigued, and yeah, I think that's all for now. I'm tired because it's been a long day. So it's the next day, and as you saw, I take out today. I'm just went into, I guess, the older section of my town, because every year in May, for some reason, like my town does this like bike on Main sort of thing, where people just come together and kind of decorate bikes, and they're all up and down Main Street in my town. I don't know why it's bikes in particular, but this one they do see other ones, and yeah. And I did do some reading today, and I'm on page 196 of the Sirens, and I'm definitely liking it, but I don't know, any more plot, I guess. Like, it's because it seems like it's just a lot of sistery stuff, I would say. Like what is the connection? Why is Jess and Lucy, why were they dreaming of these sisters from like the 1800s sisters who they probably don't have any connection to? So yeah, but we do see how Lucy, she starts become almost untethered from the present. Like she'll be thinking or with these sisters in the 1800s, and then suddenly she remembers she's back in 2019, and I don't know, I do like that. And we see how Jess felt like she could be adopted and questioned her parents, but like there are definitely secrets that they are keeping from her, and how they won't talk about their family. Like Lucy's like, yeah, they never talked about our grandparents or any aunts, uncles we might have had. Like nothing. Like all Jess and Lucy seems like have known each other and their parents, which is, I don't know, quite weird, quite interesting. And when Lucy does research to see if Mary and Eliza survived the shipwreck, she can't help but wonder if somehow she is a descendant of one of them, particularly Mary. That's like the perspective she's dreaming of, and if the sisters did somehow survive and change their names for like a new star, like to get away from the fact that they were convicts being sent to South New West. And you see how Eliza, she believed her mother was taken to this land beneath the waves, and she is waiting for them. She definitely feels less resentment over what happened than Mary. Like it seems like she better understood her mother, I guess. And we do learn that people in Canva Bay, like they have this legend that if you stand on a cliff, you can hear women singing, and it's like, I don't know, it's quite interesting. And it's the couple who adopted the baby Hope. They did live in a house where Jess lives currently, and it's like it was abandoned like after they moved for a long time before Jess came. So I think that's a weird coincidence, which, yeah, I'm not gonna say too much. And Lucy does learn information about the couple who adopted baby Hope, and she sees a very familiar person in the photograph that was published in a newspaper. And yeah, she learns, I guess, the identity of baby Hope, and she sees how Jess somehow learns that identity. Yeah, and it does seem like the couple did have to change their names after the whole drama with the newspaper trying to accuse them of the mother actually being that birth mother, and then she, in this like postnatal depression thing, she abandoned her baby, or she was mentally ill and when gave birth to the baby there and abandoned it. And then the father tried to clean up his wife's mess. Like, we did learn that there was a settlement between the newspaper and the couple later on, and yeah, and we see how the truth, how this affected Jess, like how she felt abandoned by people in her life, and feeling abandoned led her to develop, I guess, different relationship with her teacher, and I'm so scared to see how this turns out. Like, I just have a bad feeling that this isn't gonna end well for anyone. Like, we are reading the perspective of a teenage Jess, like, who's very hormonal, very, like, confused, scared, doesn't understand, like, what she learned, and she's in this very vulnerable position, so, like, how is this gonna end up for her? And, yeah, the truth is that, and Lucy also learns the truth that, like, she and her sister, they're not biologically related, and Lucy, like, she's come to the realization, or she decides she doesn't care. Like, they grew up in the same house, they grew up with the same parents, they grew up as sisters. In her eyes, that's all Jess has ever been to her big sister. Like, this isn't gonna change anything about the relationship. Like, yes, the truth is out there for both of them, but who cares? In modern day, Lucy's trying to be more of just this journal to see what happens with Jess and this teacher, and when the police show up looking for Jess, they need to question the teacher about an investigation that's ongoing, and I guess his car was found abandoned by someone in public, and he wasn't there. They don't know where he is, and they want just to kind of help them find him, because apparently there was a relationship between the two, and I was like wondering, did just run off with this teacher, or did something happen? And there's still a lot of questions that I have answers to, but those answers are not coming in this vlog, because this is the end of this video. So if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below telling me what you've been up to recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel, and if you want to follow me on any social media, then all those things are in the down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post a video. Bye.